Hey, what's going on guys, it's Rated here and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be going over the 7 tips that turn you from a noob player into a pro player, and in this video we're going to be going over every single one of them. Now just before we do begin with this video, if you guys can go ahead and drop a like down below, would be greatly appreciated, and of course leave a comment down below of what bothers you the most within Warzone. And while you're at it, go ahead and subscribe to the channel and make sure you guys have turned post notifications on to never miss any future Warzone content. And without further ado, let's jump into number 1. Now the first one we have here is don't push into stupid gunfights and pick them correctly. So make sure all of your gunfights are in your favour. For example, if they're head glitching or sniping from a distance, definitely don't go ahead and try and push that, as they will have the advantage over you, especially if you do not have the correct cover. While if you do go down you can be revived, it will still cause you more harm than good, as of course you will be replenished from your armor plates and possibly have no ammo at the end of that fight, especially if you are fighting from long distances. Now like I did say, this all does play into what part of the map you are actually currently located on. For example, if you are in downtown, sniping from roofs is pretty much a common thing within downtown. Me personally, I wouldn't stay in downtown too long. I'd like to go ahead and push out and rotate from the map, get out of downtown as soon as possible, as staying on top of the roofs and picking gunfights from roofs is not good at all. It's just going to cause you more harm than good, especially as your armor, like I did say, is going to be replenished, and also your ammo. The next one is don't push into buildings blindly. Now, 2-story buildings are tough to push through, and you already know that, but one thing which is great about 2-story buildings, especially if they're camping in the roof of the building, you guys can actually jump up from most buildings, and they do have a ledge where you can actually jump up and get inside and push from the roof to the floor. So that's what I always like to do. If I see an enemy camping in a roof, what I'd like to go ahead and do is jump up on a ledge and then jump up on top of the roof and push from the roof downwards, as most of them do have windows in that you can just simply jump into. If not, get a vehicle, put it up against the window and then jump in that way. That also works. Like I do say, always run stuns, so you can throw a few stun grenades in there while you are going to attempt to push that building, but most buildings do have mantle points to push through the windows and clear it from the roof down. Now in downtown, if there are enemies on top of the multi-story buildings, I personally wouldn't challenge them at all unless you absolutely need to, and if they're on the tallest building, then definitely go ahead and push down from an even taller building, maybe parachute on them, but don't do it blindly, and make sure you have the most cover while doing so, or even maybe down an enemy from the roof. When they're reviving, you can then all bombard the enemy while they're reviving their friend, and then simply wipe out the entire team that way. But me personally, I wouldn't even challenge people who are roof camping, as that's pretty much a no-go in this game. The next one is always be aware of your surroundings. If you see an enemy in the distance and you have no cover and they do not see you, simply just don't shoot at the enemy until you are in cover. Of course, if they see you, then you can engage in that gunfight, as pretty much they've already seen you, they're probably going to shoot first, so go ahead and try and kill them from the range. But in my opinion, what I definitely suggest doing is don't shoot unless you are in good cover, as your cover will be exposed, and if one of your friends goes down, they're pretty much getting wiped out the game instantly, and there's no coming back from that. If the gunfight isn't heavily in your favour, then what I suggest doing is relocating, get some cover that you can duck behind, and of course if the enemy hasn't seen you by then, you guys can maybe get an easy flank on them, go closer up, get an easy kill that way, or just simply get behind an object which you could take cover from, and if they're not in no cover, then start shooting, and that way you can regen your plates if they do get a few hits on you, and also if one of your teammates goes down, you can simply revive them or use a self-revive. Now me personally, when I'm behind cover, I like to put down a trophy system, so if the enemies do want to throw any lethals or stun grenades at you, it will be replenished from the trophy system. Or even better, maybe run the EOD perk, as perk 1, in my opinion, there is no other better perk to run other than EOD, as cold-blooded is pretty much useless now, as nobody is running thermal sights. Now the next one is run weapons dependent on the circle size. Now many people and many pro players, if the gas is small and they're in a small circle towards the end of the game, what many pro players like to do is pick up their last loadout drop from the one that has spawned naturally from the sky, and what they'd like to do is swap out their current loadout for an SMG loadout. And me personally, I have always done this, and it has always benefited me in the game, no matter what situation I'm in. Especially if you're flying in and you've just been respawned, going in and getting an SMG loadout is definitely going to help you, especially as the circle's closing in and you're at close combat, and SMGs pretty much just dominate at this game when you are close by. Now as always, if you do pick up your SMG class, you can of course swap your secondary weapon out for your primary weapon, so you will still be able to keep that assault rifle with you, but an assault rifle SMG combination towards the end of the game is definitely very helpful. This helps tremendously, and especially when you're selecting this class, I personally would have restock perk enabled and get rid of Ghost, as towards the end game many people are not running Ghost anymore, just for the fact that everybody knows where you are as the circle is so small. Running stuns and Molotov with the restock perk is very useful, as many people would argue that the heartbeat sensor and the C4 is a better combination. Yes, it may be for early game, but towards the end of the game it's pretty much useless, as like I did say, most players will be running Ghost, or some players simply won't be. But only having one C4 towards the end of the game is pretty bad, whereas you can have a Molotov and a stun every 45 seconds if you are running that along with the restock perk. It's great because if camping behind cover, you can easily push them, throw a few stun grenades their way and a Molotov, and it will be an easy kill. The next one I have here is third party your enemy teams. So if you see an enemy team fighting another enemy team and one of them has just finished a gunfight, it's most likely that that other team is very weak or possibly have no armor whatsoever. You pushing that gunfight will pretty much guarantee you the win on that gunfight, as it's going to aid you an advantage, as they're going to have no armor plates and they will be very confused if you are pushing from a different angle. Now not only that, but they will be extremely distracted, as you know, many people love to go for the loot straight away after they do wipe out the enemy team, and this is of course going to grant you the easy kills on the enemies. And this way it will secure you an easy team wipe and you will be at a huge advantage, whereas the enemies would be at a huge disadvantage. Again, don't go rushing in guns blazing unless you have good cover and the enemies simply don't see you. Third party in a team is a thing which you just have to learn how to do, and once you do master the art of doing that, you will guarantee yourself the wins for every gunfight. Now one crucial thing is using the correct settings in Warzone. Now depending on your accuracy and sensitivity, the new settings in Warzone allow you to change your aim response curve. Many pro players have been seen and used the dynamic response curve. Me myself have used the dynamic response curve, and it has resulted in greater accuracy throughout Warzone. And the reason it allows you to have greater accuracy and will assist you that slight bit more is, as you're already good at aiming down your sights and pinpointing the enemies, it will just make minor adjustments to your already good aim and allowing you to take out the enemies, pretty much shooting above the chest and killing them much faster than usual. Many people like to run a high sensitivity in multiplayer, but this doesn't correlate to Warzone at all. A lower sensitivity in Warzone is definitely far better than it would be in multiplayer. Now another setting which you can change in Warzone is change your ADS multiplier. Now this will allow you to have a lower sensitivity when you're aimed down sights and a higher sensitivity when you're not. So me personally, I definitely change this around, just dependent on how I feel during the day, but sometimes I like to run a much higher sensitivity when running around the map and not aim down sights. But then when I do aim down sights, it will be a sensitivity as low as 3 or 4, and that way I can pinpoint my enemies when I'm engaged at a gunfight at a greater distance. Now finally, the last one is never take your thumbs off the sticks. Some of you may even ask, how is it even possible when I don't have a scuff controller or anything like that? Now one great thing about not taking your thumbs off the stick, you can reload, change weapon and do all of that without taking your thumbs off the stick, while you still can move around the map and scan for enemy teams. As I'm sure many of you guys are already aware, scuff controllers have become a staple in Call of Duty history, but in the past year, companies or even game creators have made it much easier to replicate this without spending a bunch of cash. There's new button layouts that I will be showing on screen, which will allow you to jump around the map, reload, crouch, and even drop shot without taking your thumbs off the stick at all. Like I did say, there are new button layouts which I will be showing on screen right now. One of them is bumper jumper, which allows you to jump around the map using your bumpers. Of course, getting used to this will be much harder than, of course, if you did just go ahead and pick up a scuff controller. But like I did say, alternatively, you can go ahead and actually change these layouts and it will not cost you a single penny. Now other than that, of course, if you can't get used to these button layouts, what I suggest you doing is picking up an Xbox Elite controller. If you are playing on an Xbox or even PC, definitely use this controller, as it does have back paddles and is much cheaper than a scuff controller. Not only that, but sometimes you can even get the PS4 paddle attachment if you are on PS4, which can be as cheap as £30, or maybe if you just want to go full pro and get yourself a scuff controller and have all the add-ons such as trigger stops and stuff like that, which will make you better at the game ultimately. Now take this last one with a grain of salt. Many people do actually play claw in this game and use no back paddles or trigger stops at all, and they are just as good as pro players with the scuff controllers. It just makes your life 10 times easier using one of these controllers, whereas using claw would be much harder to get used to. Now hopefully you guys did enjoy these tips, and hopefully you guys have become a better player at the end of watching this. If you guys have any questions, leave it down in the comment section below and I'll be sure to help you guys out. And of course, make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel with notifications turned on so you never miss any future uploads. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
We're in the safe zone. Watch for enemy.
Contract updated. New objective identified.